Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc.
Today's topic is AI meets authenticity, branding lessons. Can you build an authentic brand that connects with your audience while staying competitive in an AI-driven world? Our guest today is Paige Arnof-Fenn from Mavens and Moguls. Paige is the founder and CEO. Her clients include Microsoft, Virgin, the New York Times Company, Colgate, venture-backed startups, as well as nonprofit organizations. She graduated from Stanford and Harvard Business Schools, and Paige serves on several boards, is a popular speaker and columnist who has written for Entrepreneur and Forbes. Paige, welcome. Good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernie and Wayne, for having me. I'm excited to chat with y'all today. This is a subject near and dear to my heart. I've had 3 chapters to my marketing career. I spent the first chapter in corporate America at Procter Gamble and Coca-Cola. My second chapter was at a bunch of venture-backed startups. All 3 of them had good exits. And about 23 years ago, I hung out a shingle and started my own marketing firm. I work now with a lot of small businesses, and I think a lot of these questions are very relevant for the world today.
So, authentic branding. What's different between authentic branding and getting your cow slapped with a piece of marker on the side of it?
Yeah, branding does actually come from the fact that when animals get branded, that really was the history of the term. Authentic branding is really about finding your core, being very intentional about what's unique, special, and different to you, your product, your service, and finding the right words and pictures to tell your story in a unique way that only you can tell. Having a unique value proposition and being comfortable in your own skin. There are a lot of brands out there today. If you're not a brand, you're a commodity. Commodities compete on price. That's not a good part of the market to be in because it's a downward spiral. People pay a premium for brands, and you have to know where your brand stands out, how you stack up versus your competition. And the goal is to own some real estate in your customers' brains so that when they have a problem that your product or service can help them solve, that they think of you first.
That's good. So, from a perspective of what is a brand, and you covered part of that in there, is that how I speak? If I'm from the South, do I always use an accent from the South? Is it a color? Is it the shape of the icon?
A brand is a promise. It's a promise of a consistent experience. A brand is how people talk about you and think about you when you're not in the room. Having a logo, having a tagline, having a website, all those things contribute to the brand. But the truth is, everything communicates. It's the car you drive, the clothes you wear, how you speak, how you look. All of those things contribute to your brand. Ultimately, you're building a trusted relationship with your audience so that every time you show up, they know what to expect.
One thing that I am interested in, I'd love your take. We hear a lot about authenticity, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. I spent my first 25 years in corporate having people telling me that I was way too authentic. What is the simple put of you can be different, you can be goofy, you can be off the wall, but craft in such a way that you don't offend? Is there a middle road?
So I think the important thing is to audit your brand. And you do that by talking to people that know you, that don't know you, that have heard about you. One of the first foundational things we do with a lot of our clients is what's called a communications audit. You look at every touch point that people come in contact with and find out in their brain How do they think about you? What are the words that pop up? If they could only describe you in 3 or 4 words, what would those words be? And are the words different if people know you personally versus professionally? Do what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are your strengths? What are the things that you're not so good at? How do you stack up versus your competitors? Where are they strong? Where are they weak? It's okay if your brand isn't making everybody happy. You don't need everybody to be your client or your customer. When I worked for P&G and Coca-Cola, those are mass marketed consumer brands. They want as many people buying Crest toothpaste and Tide detergent and Coca-Cola and Diet Coke. They want everyone in the world buying them. But for a small business, for a professional service firm like mine or yours, you don't need everybody to be your client. You need the right people to be your client. So, do the right people have the right image? Do they have the right message? Do they know what you do better than anybody else? And if you're offending other people, or you're not really talking to other people that are not part of your target audience, that is perfectly okay. You're not trying to boil the ocean here. You don't have to talk to everyone. You only want to stand for just 1, 2, at most 3 things. People can't remember 10 things. But when I look back on my corporate career, my bosses would tell you I was a really hard worker, smart, young, up and comer. But boy, was I a pain in the butt. I was always trying to bend, break, and change the rules. And that's not a bad thing. But I think what I realized is I was more of an entrepreneur at heart. I really wasn't a big corporate hierarchy person that was going to take a number and wait my turn to get promoted and play by the rules. And that's what led me to leave the corporate chapter, startup chapter, or the entrepreneurial chapter. And I think it's a much better fit for me now. So it sounds like if you were offending people earlier in your career, maybe that's just the rite of passage to figure out who you are and what you stand for. And then you want to attract those kind of clients for your business.
You touched on a couple of things. Are there any other branding mistakes that people typically make? I'm starting up my business. I got my shingle. I got a logo, and ta-da, I'm here. And what is the typical branding mistakes that people make on first blush?
Today, we're all walking around with phones in our pocket. People can spread themselves too thin and try to be everything to everyone. And that is a big mistake. A lot of people get overwhelmed with all the tools and technologies, all the social media platforms. So what I always tell my clients is pick your lane. What is authentic to you? If you like blogging, then blog. If you like Twitter, X, then do that. But you do not need to be everywhere. And you should not, if you are going to be on multiple platforms, you need to have a consistent theme, a consistent voice, a consistent persona. Where people go astray is when they try and be really buttoned up on LinkedIn, and on X, they want to be a little snarky. On Facebook, they want to be really cool and fun and on vacation. And the problem with that is when people check you out online, they don't know which version of you is going to show up at the meeting. You're trying to build trust and build a relationship with people. Now, if you've got a funny sense of humor, that's sweet. But if you're snarky, sometimes it really could offend very. Sometimes you're really buttoned up and professional. Sometimes you look like you're on vacation. You have to be careful about that. So I always say, pick your lane. People are looking for me on LinkedIn. They're not looking for me on Instagram or Pinterest. So I don't bother with those platforms. I am very focused. LinkedIn is a great platform for professional service businesses, small business, thought leaders. That's a great kind of sandbox for me to play in. I'm not trying to find all my friends from kindergarten and first grade. I'm not trying to post a lot of jokes and viral things on Facebook. I'm not posting a lot of pictures of my friends and family. Know what lane you're in, know what messages are really important to you. And yes, You can't own 10 different keywords in your customer's brain. Pick a few hashtags and focus on those. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can publish about those. You can join forums, double down on what is your strength and where people can really use your talents and skills versus other people. Other mistakes I see people make when you're a small business, they get too far ahead of themselves. They get going and want to put up their website and do business cards, stationery, and start sending out different mailers and emails and newsletters where people can run themselves ragged. There's an endless list of things you can do as a new small business owner. The most important thing you need to do is find those reference clients and customers that can vouch for you. You can test different messages and figure out what resonates with your target audience. And then get that language on your website, get a few reference customers and clients, and use those as referrals to get other good customers and clients. I've had small business owners tell me they spent a lot of money getting printed materials, folders, expensive business cards, and paid a lot of money for a logo. They wanted a gold seal on the stationery. That sounds great, but you don't even know who you are and who's buying what you're selling. Until you know that, don't spend a lot of money trying to create all these corporate tchotchkes. Don't spread yourself too thin online. As a business owner, you need to start selling. That's where the rubber meets the road. Once you start getting traction, once you see what lane is busy, what are people willing to pay for? You might think you're starting a business to do XYZ. When you get into it, people are paying you to do ABC. So you want to make sure your messages resonate with what people are paying, what they want. Those are areas that are easy fixes. Be brutally honest. You can do some market research. You can talk to prospective customers and clients. You can talk to prospective gatekeepers. If you have people that you worked with in the past, you could talk to people that knew you from a different part of your career or your life to see, is it resonating with them? All of those things are important touchstones, but market research does not have to be expensive. When I worked in corporate America, we spent a lot of time and money and talked to so many people that it would be statistically significant. When you're a small business owner, you don't have the time or the money to do extensive research. You can do a survey monkey, ask a few questions, and then put the information out there. If it's getting a lot of clicks, if it's converting, follow the data, get the Google Analytics results. If it's not getting traction, pivot and try something new until you find your voice and your audience.
I'm going to risk going into the weeds because it has already come up. I am very confused about chatbots. On one hand, I hear that the electronics do some of the heavy lifting, and so that you're talking to people who you should be talking to, and it's elegant and effective. And on the other hand, I hear in my mind the worst of a telephone tree where I can't get to a real human. And I know it's getting better, and there's large language learning, but what is the real core reason for a chatbot?
So if you have a lot of frequently asked questions and you see a lot of repetitive pathways, that's where chatbots can be very useful. You've got a track record of a lot of content that answers very common questions. I think the distraction, the quality of all these new tools and technologies, there was ChatGPT, and then there's Claude, and then last week Perplexity came out, and then last week DeepSeek, and it's like whiplash. Every week I feel like there's a new version of artificial intelligence out there. It does have great qualities. If you're trying to brainstorm, if you're looking for headlines that you want to test for an email campaign, there are a lot of great uses for artificial intelligence. Having said that, You do not want to use it as a crutch or over rely on it. Because if you're using it to write your web copy or your email newsletter, my fear is that there's just a lot of robotic, generic copy. And if you're reading it, and you have to be very careful because a lot of false information and misinformation can get in there. You really have to double check it. And you really want to make sure, again, back to what's unique, special, and different about you. You cannot lose the human element. Robots are very efficient, and that's great, but they don't have the war stories, the personal element, the experiences, the good, the bad, and ugly. That's what people connect to. You're trying to build a brand, you're trying to connect emotionally, and you want to make sure that the copy on your packaging, that the copy on your website, if you're doing thought leadership, you're posting things online, you want it to show your humanity. Robots don't know your origin story. They don't know where you came from. They don't know all the warts and bruises that got you where you are today. That's part of your core brand and your brand values. That's what people want to hear about. That's how they decide, you get me, you hear me, you see me. That's what you want to add to the kind of copy that gets generated by the AI tools. Because if you rely too heavily on what's CRM or the latest buzzword, there's just so much out there. It turns out to be a sea of sameness. If you ever watched Charlie Brown, the cartoons when you were a kid and the teacher, it was like, wah, 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 wah. That's what it sounds like if you're just using generic robotic AI to generate your blog postings or your web copy. Be careful and don't lose touch with what got you where you are today, because those bumps and bruises, those highs and lows, those pivots and twists and turns, that's what makes us human. That's what makes us interesting. And people don't remember facts and figures. They remember the stories. That's what people connect to.
AI and integrations. You've touched on some key elements here. Reliance on AI is one part of the tech. Well, you wouldn't rely only on emails, auto dialers, or other mechanisms. How would you keep that personal touch integrated into communications and eventually bring the person to have a chat with the live hominoid? How do you design that flow? How do you make it come together so that it's like a funnel, right? It guides you slightly along there. And if you're interested, keep on going down the rabbit hole. You will find the person to talk to, or you might end up in the Wizard of Oz.
I feel you have to educate yourself on all these shiny objects. I sign up for webinars. I listen to podcasts. I'm reading articles in a lot of the marketing journals and online. You have to learn what's out there. And again, whether you use ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, DeepSeek, whatever, you may have a personal preference, one that kind of works better for you, is more intuitive to you. You don't need to use all of them. Find the tools that give you more bandwidth, that are not draining to you, but are really a multiplier effect. When you do that, people approach it different ways. Some people keep notes on their phone. Some people have a running list of topics and ideas on their computer. Find a system that works for you. The thing that I keep telling my clients, the AI that really matters today, I think, are authentic interactions, not artificial intelligence. You want to find ways that you can authentically connect with your audience and talk about the issues, real case studies, real situations that you've run into, because the more real it is, the more relatable it's going to be. And then people will see, oh, I get it. This is where I should call Bernie. Bernie can help me with this because I've seen and heard him talk about these problems. Again, you don't need to appeal to everybody, but find the topics. You can, if you have an email newsletter, do something called A/B testing. You can test one headline on half and a different headline on the other half and see which ones get opened more frequently. There are easy, simple things you can do. Pivot, test, and learn, and keep getting better with each newsletter. You'll see some topics are really going to be interesting and generate a lot of back and forth. You get a lot more comments online, more interaction. Other ones, no, people just delete it. They don't even open the email at all. That's data, that's information. What is it about it that they follow the breadcrumbs? Look at your Google Analytics and see, did they click through to the article and then look at different parts of your website? Did that lead to conversations? What was the path and why did they like it? What resonated? You can talk to the audience, figure out different lists that you want to try. You have a primary, secondary, and tertiary audience. The message might be different. The primary audience is the end user, but you may have to go through a financial decision maker. You may have to go through a procurement decision maker. And the finance guys want to save money. So what's the message that they're going to need to get so that the end user gets to use the tool they want? To be very aware of that in your marketing meeting.
Because we talk to people and we get people who have a story to tell at several parts of the journey. I've been promised everything from cleaner sheets to my banking gets happened automatically. I don't know. I don't even have to earn the money. It just appears. What do you think has been the biggest cause of stuff that was promised and not delivered? And is that a fair question?
So there's a lot of bait and switch out there. There are a lot of overpromise and under delivering. Going back to the real McCoy, the real thing, the brands that underpromise and overdeliver are always the ones that provide the best value and the best word of mouth, the most referrals. The great thing about situations like that, you can pay to have an ad that says anything. I'm the best, I'm the cheapest, I'm the prettiest, but you don't control public relations. And I always find if you have a great story to tell, instead of spending the money in advertising, I prefer to put that into a PR budget, because to get other people talking about you, it's almost like the halo effect. If the media writes an article and they talk about you being the best in your category, or if you start getting a lot of people on social media singing your praises, saying, oh my God, I am such a fan of this product or service. This accounting tool is the easiest thing I've ever used. This website builder, I just did my own website. I didn't need to hire somebody. It was intuitive. I love it. And then that goes viral and people make TikTok videos and it starts taking off and having its viral moment. You can't pay for that. That's when your clients and your customers are telling your story for you. If you can get to that point, it's absolute magic. An ad in the New York Times cannot compete with a viral moment where your exact target audience knows you, loves you, and wants to be your mouthpiece. The goal is really not to put a lot of money into advertising, because you can make a great ad. You can drive the horse to water. But if they get burned, you're going to get a lot of bad press. You're going to get a lot of negative comments online, and it's really hard to get rid of that. You want great Google reviews. You want people who say, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I love this company. I love these products and services. I can't imagine my life without them. When that happens, you're in business. You've got a great story to tell and people are telling it for you.
You touched on word of mouth, and I think that's a really key piece. It's easier. I know somebody and I trust them. There are other mechanisms like that. We see that in Google reviews and other platforms that help promote that. Do I actually want to eat at that restaurant? Do I actually want to go to that hotel? Is that resort fun? Or sometimes within the ecosystem of a platform, let's say you're getting a ride from somebody and the driver rates you and you rate the driver. Is that another piece of the puzzle that you try to build into the brand and then reach out and going, okay, harvest this information that's useful, both the beauty marks as well as the warts?
There can be fake reviews online. If something seems too good to be true, you've got to do your homework. You hear about people that get an Airbnb and it seems amazing, and then they go there and it's a dump. Or Amazon reviews that this is such a great thing, and then you order it and it's really cheaply made. You need to check legitimate sources. If somebody you know and trust gives something a good review, or if you find out on LinkedIn that you and I have 5 people in common and I reach out to them, it's great to know we know people in common, but now I want to know what they think of you and what they know about you. And if you're thinking of hiring somebody and you check the back channel and you talk to 3 or 4 people and they go, I don't even know how I know this person. I must have met him at a networking event. He must have sent me a LinkedIn request. I really couldn't pick him out of a lineup. Or, yeah, I think he was a summer intern, but we didn't make him an offer. I don't really remember what the deal was. Those are not overwhelmingly positive reviews. So you really do need to check further. That would be a bit of a red flag or a yellow flag to say, I don't know if I am going to get snookered on this one. The counter of that is if somebody, a professional acquaintance, somebody who's like a thought leader in your industry or a micro influencer does a blog post or talks about, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. It's the hottest new thing of 2025. Or this guy is so smart. I went to a conference and this woman gave the best keynote speech I've ever heard. Here's the video. Check her out. Now you go, okay, this is the real deal. These are people that know what they're talking about. They really count on their reputation being stellar. They're not going to recommend somebody who's terrible. They send you a video. You know the person's written books. You've read one of the books. You learned something. That's pretty much a vote of confidence. So it's on you to do your homework. You can't trust everything online. And if it's too good to be true, be careful.
Here's a different question, Paige. People are at various stages in their journey. And when somebody gets fired today and goes into business on Monday, he means well, but he doesn't have a clue. He just can't. How do you help the guy who wants to tell a story and doesn't even know what story to tell? How do you help him get past the smell test so he even believes it?
Again, part of good marketing is almost like therapy. You need to dig in and figure out what in the background of this person. Do your market research, canvass the people that know you. What do they like about you? What do they know about you? What are you good at? What are you not good at? I've had clients come to me and they'd say, I hung out a shingle. I have this great idea. Everyone loves it. And I don't understand why it's not selling. What's the problem? And you dig a little further and you find out that the guy talked to his mother, his uncle, his best friend, his neighbor, and all of them say, you're so smart. That's such a great idea. I think you're doing great. But guess what? Those people are not the target audience. They're your friends and family, your college roommate. They don't want to hurt your feelings. They're not going to tell you the baby's ugly. If you're not talking to the target audience that is going to buy or refer your product or service, it doesn't matter what other people think. You got to talk to the people who are on your radar for that need this product. Once you figure out who your audience is, figure out what messages resonate with them, dig into your history. And it could be in your corporate life, you figured out like you had a niche and that was what you did. Everyone knew you for that. They trusted you. You were the best at it. I started my career on Wall Street right out of college in the 80s. Michael Douglas had just won the Oscar for the first Wall Street movie. I was good at it. I made a lot of money, but I really didn't like the work at all. And a girlfriend of mine, when we were going to business school, she said to me, are you going to go back into finance after business school. And I said, oh God, no. I don't think I could do it again. I just didn't like the work that paid well, but I need to do something that I like more. And she said, how is that possible that you didn't like it? You were so good at it. There were only 3 things I liked about my job. When the deal was complete, we got to take ads out in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal to announce to the financial community that the deal was done. We did a closing dinner to celebrate the end of the transaction. And because I was the junior person on the team, I had to plan the meal and get the restaurant. And we always gave people promotional tchotchkes at dinner to commemorate the successful transaction. She shook her head. She said, Paige, guess what? You're not a finance person. You're a marketing person. Everything you liked about the job was marketing. You liked advertising in the newspaper, planning events, and getting promotional tchotchkes for clients. All of those are marketing. If you stick to marketing, you're going to find a really fun career. I went back to business school. I took a marketing class. I got the top grade, and I've been in marketing ever since. You have to be very thoughtful and look at the data, look at the facts. If you can't be honest about yourself, ask people you trust. What am I good at? What's my story? It's a work in progress. I had to rebrand myself from a finance person to a marketing person. After I got a good grade in the marketing class, I got a summer internship in marketing. I got an offer to come back. I started building my marketing story, and it's continued ever since. So don't get frustrated if you don't have your story. You have to take baby steps. Walk before you run. You're not going to every career path. You're not going to every part of your job, but really be honest with yourself. What's intuitive to you? What do you find fun? What are the parts of your job where you don't look at the clock, the day flies? Think about that. And if you can get in touch with that, what you enjoy, what's fun, what are you better at than anybody else? That's how you build your brand from the inside out. That's how you create the story that only you can tell.
How do you help business owners future-proof their brand?
I'm a big believer in having a growth mindset. And I think a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs, they're always experimenting, learning, growing. So I think the key really is you really want to test and learn, take baby steps.
How do you help people future-proof their brand?
To future-proof your business, you always have to have your antenna up. You do not want to turn into a one-trick pony. People get in their comfort zone, and it is comfortable. The world is moving. We live in internet time here. So you've always got to test and learn. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because it doesn't matter what area you're in. There are always new tools and technologies. There's always new stuff happening, new competitors coming onto the scene. And I think whether or not you join a mastermind group, you have a coach, you watch TED Talks, you find your ecosystem, join professional organizations, professional development groups, go to conferences, read books, look in your category. Who are the thought leaders? Follow them on LinkedIn, read the blogs, listen to their speeches. All of those things will keep you relevant, keep everything more timely. I think where people get into trouble is they get fat and happy. They feel like I'm in the zone, everything's working great, I've got business, I'm making money. That's great, but you always need to carve out maybe 10 or 15% of your week and use that to get outside your comfort zone. There's a reason why companies like Google give their employees, I don't know if it's like 1 day a week or something, the equivalent, do things outside of their normal job. Hear a speech, read, create some white space on your calendar so that you give yourself permission to test, learn, grow. You want to have that growth mindset so that you're constantly learning and you're being exposed to new ideas, new people, new things. When you drive home, take a new path, try some new ethnic foods that you've never tried before. You've got to shake it up. You can't get too complacent. You can't get too comfortable in your routine, because one thing we can all be certain of, and there's a book written that says, what got you here won't get you there. And I think that's exactly right. Keep those synapses firing. Keep doing things that, again, might be out of your comfort zone, but your future self will thank you because, by reading and listening and watching and learning, talking to people that you don't usually talk to, listening to new voices. There are a million cable stations. Watch something you've never watched. Take a course, do a weekend getaway retreat. I think those things really bode well because it just shakes it up in a way that it's going to come out with a different outcome. You just can't get into a rut. I think a lot of people get comfortable, and you really, like I said, the best thing you can do is get comfortable being a little uncomfortable.
I absolutely love this talk. Do you have a white paper or a book if you wanted to dip your toe in, but didn't know what you were doing? Do you have a way to get started? And if not, how do we get a hold of you?
Thank you for asking. The best way is to go to my website, mavensandmoguls.com. I have a ton of articles, a lot of videos, a bunch of podcasts, and I have contributed to a lot of books, which are all listed on the website. I've never written my own book, but I've contributed to a lot of really good ones. The other way to find me is on LinkedIn. My last name is hyphenated, but on LinkedIn, it's all smushed together. One of my clients always says, because my company name has an ampersand, my last name has a hyphen, she said, there are just too many words to remember. She only remembers Paige and Mavens. And she said, every time I need you, I just Google Paige and Mavens and you pop right up. Thank goodness search engine optimization works. You can find me that way too.
I want to say thank you to Paige Arnof-Fenn, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you're looking at setting up your branding journey, you're just starting out and you're wondering, geez, what should I do? And you want to talk to the voice of experience and knowledge, Paige Maven. You should be able to find her in a Google search.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, Wayne@motivateuca. That is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motivateuca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jalvan Strika from Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motivate-U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer, please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.